Do you remember a time before Zoom was a part of your daily life? Me neither. Now that video conferencing calls are here to stay, it's time to finally sort out your background. Michael is here helping us create a setup that is wow-worthy, whether you're the CEO or the temp. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Tracy, how you doing?
I am doing great, and I love the fact that you were able to put together a Zoom-worthy background for someone I know. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, Donovan Bennett, you know him, he's on Sportsline, he does a Sportsnet, sorry, and he does other TV appearances as well. And I did a Zoom wall, a large Zoom wall for him and his wife, Kate. They just moved into their new place and they have this great basement area, so we're able to create Zoom personalities for them. Because in Donovan's world, he actually makes different appearances and he has a more of a sports fun profile, but he also has more serious environmental and social profile. So sometimes his environment needs to change in his background.
So what do we need to determine before we plan out our backgrounds and our spaces at home?
It's very different these days. When you're holding meetings and you're in person, there's a lot of eye contact going on. But when you're on camera, people are examining, they'll look at you for a second, they start examining your background, they're analyzing what's there. So we need to be very conscious of what we're putting forward. So first of all, how long are you staying on your camera? And then you establish what's the mood? What do you want them to see? So are you a CEO? Are you landing billion-dollar deals? Do you want a power wall? Or do you want to be more approachable and warm and inviting and friendly? So we need to establish that first. And then we start qualifying that, okay, well, what are those pieces? What are those images, right? And then we do the setup. And then it's really creating that composition that's gonna work when you're on camera so that you give something interesting to look at.
Now, I'm looking behind you, and that is a large space that you had to work with. Can you tell us how large the space is and if that size made it challenging?
Yes, this is actually a basement area, so it's a large open space. This wall's like 25 feet, so it's fantastic, and it has multi-purposes because obviously they don't spend their life on Zoom. So what we had to do is make it work for their everyday lives with their son and when they're just kind of enjoying life, and then also when it's time to film, it should work. So what we did is we decided, because there's 3 personalities we got to create, 2 for Donovan and 1 for Kate, we're going to divide it into 3 sections. So what we did is we divided it and we used these slats. We didn't want to just make obvious straight lines up the wall, so we did dynamic angles, really made it creative. And then we were able to kind of focus each section depending on the personality that we were trying to create.
Okay, so each section is sort of showing a different personality, and what did you use to reflect those personalities?
Well, the first thing we did was establish tone. So we darkened the whole wall. Donovan has pigment, he has melanin, so we didn't want the wall to be white and create this weird contrast when he's lighting himself. So we darkened the wall to make it a nice reflective tone of his skin color. And then what we did is we now pulled up personal items for him. So Donovan does a lot of sports stuff, so one element, the center wall over my left shoulder here, is really about that. I actually did a piece for him from his football playing career when he was at Western University. So we captured that. We have highlights from his memories, from his sports memories of what meant stuff to him, like Vince Carter's dunk, the Raptors winning the championship, things of that nature. And then over on the other side, we had more political elements, more powerful moments like with Ali and things of that nature that really represented that. And what we did is we used different colorways too. As you can see, all the framing over here, we use black mats that really signify this. It creates a different mood. And here we went with more color and brights and the reds and the greens and yellows. And then in Kate's area, we did white framing. So in white frames and photo of her with her son, and then elements that meant stuff to her with her awards. So each section itself just has a slow different theme, but they all have that same element of composition of framing.
I can see even behind you, you've added some shelving. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when creating these walls, you want to have some 3D as well as 2D. So shelving gives us an opportunity to also put things on top and get us not on such a flat frame. So as we're composing our pictures, we're composing 3D elements like shelves on top of it. And then we can get books because the clients are great readers as well. So we can get books and vintage stuff, like we have a candle sneaker shoe. So there's a lot of more opportunity when you use shelving or bookshelves or something of that nature.
Now, the other thing to probably keep in mind if you're making a background for a Zoom space is the height. It's got to be low, probably lower than you think when it comes to hanging the art, right?
Definitely. So what we did is we wanted to keep the eye line coming a bit lower because you're sitting. So what we did is we put pictures below, a little bit lower than we normally would, so we're accomplishing both. So even when they're not on zoom, you still have the eye line, which is natural, and then we have some lower elements too that brings us there. So in the zoom, you're probably not seeing the stuff on the top, which is fine, but during the real life incorporation of the room and you walk through the space, it feels natural. It doesn't feel like everything's kind of done for short people.
Beautiful job, Michael. I love it. I feel like we should actually see what the view is like for the man that is using the space for his Zoom calls. So let's actually put it to the test. We're going to have Donovan Bennett, we call him DJ, go over to one of those sort of back walls. Beautiful. Hey, good to see you. And you can show us, take a seat, and show us how that Zoom wall is working for you. Okay, now tell me, my friend, how are you finding this space? I love the background. How is it working for you for your Zoom calls?
Oh, it's working. Like is not even fair to say. I love it because it gives me some flexibility. And it was nice working with Michael specifically as a designer because he gets me, right? Some representation in this space really matters. And he knows that as a Black person in media, I'm asked to do many different things. So I have a couple different sections where I can reflect different parts of my personality.
Oh, I love that. And you know what? I've had conversations with you before and meetings with you before, and I thought you were in the studio. I thought you were in an official space. I didn't know you were at home in your basement. Like, that speaks to how well Michael has done the job. What do you think of the original art that he created for you, DJ?
Was not expected, but was an added bonus, certainly when you have a designer who could do some art. And what I love about it specifically, it's a nod to my past as an athlete and Western, but also if you can see, I love the creative license that he took with the size of my muscles. Again, look good, feel good, and certainly I think the entire wall looks good. It makes me feel good.
Thank you, Donovan and Michael. Great job.